Hey everybody, and welcome to FYB's live U.S. Open coverage. Will Hamilton alongside Adam Szyminski.
Hello.
We just got back from the U.S. Open. Had a great time up there. A lot to go over today. We're monitoring the Query Wawrinka match, which has just gone to a fifth set. So we'll keep our eye on that. And before we get started, a couple points of housekeeping. First of all, thanks to Championship Tennis Tours for sponsoring the webcast. Website right below the video player, so if you're going to get tickets, please do it through them, promo code FYB. Second of all, we just launched FYB, which is going to help you become a digital tennis player, and that is available until Sunday midnight. So there's links to it all over the website. You can click through, check out some details there. My monitor is acting up, so I'm trying to mess with it. Whatever. I'll deal with it later. All right. Well, with that in mind, did I hit on everything, Adam?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. EPAPs. Question regarding Tennis Express. We're probably not going to be doing that. Maybe later in the week, but I haven't heard back from them. So we'll see what's up with that. First thing I want to talk about. Wait, actually, I need to fix this monitor, don't I? If we're going to clip over to it, because this is what it's. Okay, well, and then it starts working.
Yeah, and no, we shouldn't need to fix it.
Okay,
but
well,
we're working now.
All right, cool. Well, with that in mind, first thing I want to talk about is last night's match between Roger Federer and Jurgen Meltzer.
All right. So
we've got everything going on over here. You can see my computer screen. Well, there it goes again. That apparently is not affecting. Good. Okay. So if you just maximize the video player if you're having trouble seeing the stats down here. And obviously straight set win for Federer. Meltzer had some chances in there, converted a couple breaks, but I thought Fed looked real good. And I had talked about earlier how the with Federer is how is he moving in particular, and is he being aggressive? Is he trying to attack? And I thought he was. He was going for a little bit bigger ground strokes, bigger returns. Just generally, he kind of made his entire game bigger, and that means he's going for a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's going to be important against Robin Soderling next round, which is I'm looking forward to rematch of the French Open quarterfinals and the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open last year. Federer won that one, obviously lost to Soderling in the quarters of the French. So the key here, I think Federer is going to win this match. I'm going to go 4 sets. I'm guessing they'll go night match. But the key, if we go over to the dry erase board for Fed, is we'll pretend that Fed is down here, and we got Soderling up here. And if we remember back to, and then we got our Fed over here. If you remember back to the French Open, the match was on obviously a clay court, but the weather conditions had really slowed down the court. So not only was there the clay is just going to have the ball sitting up a little bit more for Soderling, but it was sitting up even more because it had rained. And what that allowed Soderling to do is really control the center of the court with his forehand, and he was really blasting the ball over to Federer's backhand, and Fed wasn't able to neutralize. Soderling could really stand over here and just hammer away and be in control a lot of the points because Fed would hit that backhand back, and it would, with the really slow courts, it would sit up, allow Soderling time to get set, really load up, and take long, big, he's got long strokes, so he could take huge cuts and just hammer away. And that really allowed him to attack Fed's backhand. I don't think that's going to work as much on the faster U.S. Open hard courts. Soderling's going to be off balance more frequently, and Fed's just been more aggressive with the backhand. So I don't expect it to be as exploitable for Soderling. So what Fed needs to do, and he always does this, but really with Soderling, if you can keep the ball outside the middle of the court and keep Soderling moving, he's going to have a tough time to get to get set and really hammer away. So I expect Federer to execute the strategy just fine. Again, anything out of here, just don't put it in this area of the court, and allow Soderling to set up, Federer's going to be okay. So I'm guessing 4 sets for Fed. Soderling, you know, I think Soderling's going to be able to, or excuse me, I expect Federer to execute that strategy perfectly fine. Soderling's a great player, so he's going to certainly do damage. He's a very dangerous player, big serve, huge forehand, very good backhand too. So I think it's going to be an interesting match, expecting a high level, but I think he's moving better. He's moving really well. He's playing more aggressively. You know, again, the entire game is just bigger, and the courts are quicker. That's going to help Fed.
I think the other thing that's going to help is his newly adopted, a little bit more aggressive strategy in general. I think that if he comes to net a little bit more often, if he really puts some pressure on Soderling, that's going to prevent Soderling from executing the strategy he wants to execute. He doesn't, I think, just have to keep it outside of the middle of the court. I think if Federer can pressure Soderling on time, that's really going to work in his favor. And I think Federer will also probably try to keep the ball low. I think he'll try to avoid hitting balls that loop higher over the net and then bounce up high into Soderling's strike zone. I think he's going to want to keep Soderling, you know, bending his knees and prevent him from striking through the ball, you know, down into the court on Federer.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. If Fed can keep the ball low when it's in the middle of the court, if Fed has to, you know, if Fed doesn't think he can get the ball sufficiently cross court, if he can keep it low with a slice in the middle of the court, it's going to be harder for Soderling to take a huge cut because he'll have to get it up and down.
Yep.
But you're right. I mean, Federer has been more aggressive recently, and that's largely because you would assume because with Paul Annacone. You know, Fed always had the tools to be more aggressive, but it might have taken sort of a subtle kick in the pants by Annacone to say, look, you're Roger Federer. Stop getting into these pseudo-passive rallies with these guys, you know, your opponents, thinking that you're just going to win it on talent alone because you're Roger Federer and they're not. So, you know, really take it to them and be aggressive and kind of just snatch the match from him. Looks like he's been doing that. Status X said in the chat that Fed didn't look great against Meltzer. He got broken twice and faced 12 break points.
And then Biggie Backhand immediately responded, well, Soder didn't look good against Montañez. So
yeah, I did not see the Montañez match, but what I will say in regards to Status X's comment, he did get lucky in the breaker. Meltzer is no slouch. I mean, the guy was quarterfinalist at the French, and then he was, I believe, 4th round, lost to Federer at Wimbledon, and he's just playing a lot better. And he came up with some great shots yesterday. So 12 break chances, converted 2. You know, I think that's taking away a little bit from what Meltzer was doing. The guy played a good match, and Fed raised the level and came up with some incredible tennis of his own. So I think it's worth.
Do you have the stat line for that match, for Fed's last match? That you can pull up there on the screen.
Stat line. Yeah, I got it right now.
Okay, let me go over there.
So we've got, 67% Meltzer first serve, 61% for Federer.
Look at that winning percentage on first serve is a huge difference, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually, here's a nice kind of vivid demonstration of Fed being more proactive with the returns, which is nice to see. Meltzer doesn't have the biggest serve, but it's 111. It's 5 miles slower than Fed's, so there's not a huge deficiency there. But Federer obviously was protecting his serves much more effectively. 77% first serve winning percentage, 61 on the second, 27 unforced errors, 41 winners, and then Meltzer was in the wrong direction, 31 unforced errors and 23 winners. But Meltzer had to play a little bit more aggressively than he would have liked.
Yep.
Because Federer wasn't allowing him to grind it out there.
Right. I think that's the interesting thing. I think the other thing that Federer, I can't remember if when we were there Federer mentioned this, and actually I remember making this comment to a friend that I was at the Open with. But when you look at these score lines, all of these players come into these tournaments, these guys who are in, say, the top 30, and they play they're great players, and then there's something about Federer and Nadal that makes these guys play worse. I think Meltzer can do, he doesn't have to get upside down in obviously, unforced errors and winners. But the way that Fed plays his game makes these guys play a little bit worse.
Sure.
And anytime in the post-match interviews, people that say, like, how do you feel about your match against Federer? They always say, I don't think I played great. And, I don't believe that every single time Federer plays someone, that person just has a bad day.
Well, that's the key. The key to being, this is not only at the pro level, but the rec level, you should try and take your opponents out of their comfort zone.
Right.
Does that well. Rafa does that well.
Right.
And you should do that too. You should look for ways to, we talked about that a little bit in the strategy mini-series, SWAT. How can I exploiting weaknesses is basically taking someone out of their comfort zone. Don't let them play to their favorite shot or use the strategies they like to use. Fed is great at that. Rafa is great at that. So, that's something you guys should focus on as well. Players are great examples of how that works. So, with that in mind, we've got a bunch of other matches. So why don't we transition to that? I think there was a question about Fish versus Djokovic. We were actually at the match. We were in the watching that. And speaking of taking someone out of their comfort zone, Fish did not look very good. Give me a second. I'm not over there yet. So
okay. Sure.
Fish did not look very good, and a lot of that had to do with Djokovic, who I thought looked fantastic and really moved the ball around the court extremely well. Hitting big shots, but didn't you think, Adam, he was moving the ball around and keeping Fish.
He was moving well, like you said. He's moving really well. He looks very skinny, but he's moving great.
Yeah.
And so I hope that he has the endurance after losing so much weight to stay in those long matches. And I think overall, after watching, when we were up at the Open, we saw Nadal play in person, Fed play. I was there for the Murray match where he lost. And Djokovic, three of those guys, Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, look very, very strong right now in person. They look almost unassailable. So
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we get a Djokovic.
I think two of those three guys are going to be in the final. That's my feeling.
I think that's a very good prediction. The only other guy I'd throw in there right now is probably Soderling. I mean, because basically that logic beat Federer. He's in good shape.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, looking at the stat line, we got 55% first serve for Fish. Not going to get it done. Djokovic 68, great percentage. The serve is huge for Djokovic right now because this has really been an issue for him recently. I still think technically he could probably improve a little bit. We were talking about that in the stands yesterday. It looks like he takes his arm a little bit too far back. You want to be in this position when you're in the trophy pose, and he's kind of back and down a little bit, so transitioning.
Yeah, I think depending on the angle that you look at it, it looks like there's a little bit of a hitch in his serve almost.
The interesting thing, Fish made a lot of mistakes. 30 unforced errors versus 13 winners. Here's the 30 unforced errors, 13 winners, 28 winners or unforced errors for Djokovic, and 30 winners. So he was only +2. Now you look at the stat line, you might say to yourself, well, Fish didn't play well. There's 30 unforced errors. That's bad.
Right.
The comparison I would use here is Wozniacki beat Sharapova, who was was error prone as well. And they asked Wozniacki about that after the match, and she said, you know what? I was the reason for a lot of those errors. I extended points, I moved the ball around, and they missed.
Right.
And this was the same deal. There were long exchanges, and then Fish would miss deep in the point. So Djokovic did a fantastic job of extending points when he needed to, just hitting big generally. Very impressive performance. So I think it'll be I think Fed Djokovic semi is a good bet there. Got a lot going on in chat, so trying to stay on top of all this stuff, guys. Let me quickly scroll through and
talk about Murray. Do you see Venus?
Well, there's Mark Gorin asks, how is it possible some guys play perfect versus like huge players, then they lose to average guys like Wawrinka? Wawrinka beats Murray, but then, he might lose this match, or or here's a better example: Tipsarevic beats Roddick and then loses to Monfils, who's no slouch, but this is a problem that not only pros have, but it's also rec players. And you walk out on court and you're not supposed to win the match, so you're real relaxed and you just play freely and you're aggressive.
You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, you got nothing to lose, so you play aggressively. Then you play some guy that maybe you should win. Maybe the stakes aren't as quite as high. You're not on center court. You're on a side court, and you're not as amped up. But the focus isn't there. And particularly at the rec level, it's more about aggression. And if you're playing someone you think you should beat, sometimes there's a tendency to just be very passive, hit the ball back because I'm a better player, so I'm just going to keep the ball in. I'm going to win. And you can make that argument about Federer, a little passive against big hitters, thinking that he's Federer and he's going to win.
Right.
So you end up with these sort of ugly matches where you might, at the rec level, you get moon balls and it's just long extended points and you just don't feel happy about your level of play, and that's because you're not being aggressive enough.
Right.
You just I'm going to play passively. I should win. I'm better.
Right.
So that's why you have a similar.
Yeah, and even at the pro level, you can make the argument that all these guys have some monster shots that they can pull out, and if they're swinging for the fences, if they're aggressive and they're on their game, and you are playing more passively and you send the ball back, not necessarily a poor shot, but even an average shot, all these guys at the top of the tour can turn on that ball and they can smoke it, and then the point is over. They've won. All of a sudden you find yourself love 30, you're in a little bit of a hole, and they're able to pull it out and break you. And I think that you have to watch for that on the pro level. You can't ever sort of let your guard down, even against someone who's, say, 30, 40th in the world, these top 5 guys.
Yeah, it's a question of Tipsarevic versus Roddick. Maybe he goes for a bigger shot earlier. Not stupid, but he just goes for a shot when he has some sort of look. But then against a guy who maybe can't hurt him as much as Roddick can, he extends the point and... It's tough at the pro level because sometimes the proper play is to extend points and grind it out because the styles of play are so varied that you don't want to use the exact same strategy.
Sure.
But yeah, it can not, being too passive is certainly something that happens at the pro level and absolutely at the rec level.
And maybe, in Tipsarevic's case, there's always that sort of, imagine if you're Tipsarevic and you're going out to play Roddick and you're not expecting to win that match, and then you beat Roddick. And you were super aggressive and you were playing with nothing to lose when you were playing against Roddick, but then you beat Andy Roddick, one of the top players in the world, and your match is like, wow, I just got past Andy Roddick. Like, I might have a shot here of going deep in the tournament. Like, I wasn't expecting to get this far, but I might get this far now, and then you tighten up. And you play like you do have something to lose now because you just got past Andy Roddick, and now you're thinking, Monfils is nowhere near Roddick. Like, I need to pull back and to make sure I don't lose this match.
It's in all sports. You see in NCAA basketball, you've got the underdog upsets one of the seeds and then loses in the next round.
Right.
Just because mentally they approach it differently and maybe they've expended too much emotional energy. There's a million ways you could kind of slice this, but. Bottom line is, pros are human just like we are, so just like everybody.
Right.
It happens. With that in mind, let's move on, guys. Keep we're following the chat. It's getting out here. It's a little tough to follow everything, but we're doing our best. So if you have any questions.
So why don't we talk about Murray real quick? Let's pull up his match because obviously that's a huge name that's now out unexpectedly. And
yeah, Wawrinka, who they're battling right now. Wawrinka beat him on Sunday. Did you watch that? I think you watched that match. I was watching a juniors match, I think. I think I was watching Dennis Kudla at the time, who won today also.
Really?
Congrats. Yeah, Dennis Kudla is one of Frank Salazar's kids.
So he's on to the 3rd round now, right?
I believe either 3rd or 4th. I think it's 4th because it's 64 at juniors and not 128, I think. Not 100% sure about that. But junior one, so did Mitchell Frank.
The the interesting thing, I was at the Murray match and I had a pretty good seat, and what I noticed was that Murray, I don't know if it came through on TV, but Murray looked injured. It looked like his his hitting arm, his forearm, was pretty messed up. He literally every single time he would serve late in the match, he would after serving he would grab his forearm.
Okay.
If he missed a serve, he would grab his forearm and walk back to the line and serve a second serve, but it didn't look good. Sometimes after long points, he would hold that forearm.
Okay.
Now I don't know if the pain was like unbearable.
Starfury says you noticed that as well.
Were you at the match, Starfury, or were you watching on TV?
Yeah, what you're saying makes sense. I'm looking at the stat line. 50% first serve.
Let me pull that up.
50% here first serve for Murray, which is not good. I mean, McEnroe was saying that pros really should be over 60% at this point. When 60% or higher is what you want to aim for. Someone like Rafa, who has been uncorking serves recently, just 130 mile an hour serves. It's kind of like, where did this pace come from? And he's still serving 65, 75% for matches. So, if there's a guy to copy in terms of the first serve, it's Rafa. Get over 65% of your first serves in. Particularly at the rec level, there's just the mentality, it's my opponent's first serve, I need to back up, I just need to get this in and not try and attack it. So
the other thing I thought I saw during the match was Murray became a little bit mentally unraveled off of a challenge. And I couldn't gather all of what was going on, but there was a point in the match in which Wawrinka had challenged I can't remember exactly what it was. The point ended, and Wawrinka challenged almost immediately, but he did it very quietly or maybe in not the clearest English. And, it took about 45 seconds before the umpire acknowledged that he had in fact challenged. And Murray was thinking, I've won this point. He's moving on to the next thing in his routine. And all of a sudden, the umpire says, Wawrinka is challenging the call, whatever. And Murray storms up and starts having words with the umpire. And, that's thinking it's a late challenge. But it looked to me like that Wawrinka had challenged immediately. But Murray was furious. Did not look pleased about that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, sometimes that happens where a guy challenges and the ref either doesn't understand it, and doesn't understand it, so it takes a little bit longer. That can throw you off. The combination of that and just mentally, everybody who's ever been injured trying to play knows that it's hard to stay mentally focused when you're hurt. You can't focus on the strategy you want to implement as much. You're not that confident because every time you hit a forehand, my arm hurts. I mean, that's
Star Fury is saying in the chat, the commentators saw the challenge as well, but the umpire had missed it.
Okay.
And so I think play started to continue, and then Wawrinka was like, no, I challenged.
Okay.
And Murray was furious.
Well, Murray was right to be mad about that. I mean, not that it was necessarily Wawrinka's fault. I mean, it was the ref's fault. Murray is right to chew him out in a situation like that, but it's just unfortunate. With that in mind, let's move on to, let's talk about the 2 night matches, or 3 night matches real quick. We got Francesca Schiavone versus Venus Williams, Kim Clijsters, Rafa versus Feliciano Lopez, which, I mean, this match is still going on in the 5th set. Venus has to come up, and she's not going to get on until 6:30, meaning that Sam's not, and Clijsters could be 7 or 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then Rafa's coming on at like 11. We'll be done at like 4 a.m. if it gets extended. The first match, Schiavone versus Venus Williams. Schiavone won the French, obviously, and she won it by playing really well, just working the ball around the court, hitting big shots when necessary. And I think if she can perform at a high level, then this could be a challenge for Venus Williams, because if she can get a lot of balls back, keep Venus moving, and Venus trying to hit big consistently, that might lead to some errors.
Yep.
So, Schiavone's tough, and when she beat Stosur in the French final, Stosur doesn't have as big of a game as Venus, but there are some similarities in terms of the big serve. Stosur likes to hit a lot of inside-out forehands and be aggro there. Schiavone can, the point is that she has proved that she can win against aggressive players.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that was a clay court, not a fast or hard court. So I think if Venus is dialed in, serving big, it's going to be a tough win for Schiavone. particularly with the crowd firmly behind
Sure.
Venus Williams.
Yep.
But Schiavone's tricky. Got some shots.
That being said, when we were up there, often the crowd will root for the underdog too. I think
But that's if it's they're not playing an American.
Yeah, I think people want to see a match. They don't want to see a blowout, even though they do love Venus. So I think they'll be at times they'll get behind Schiavone as well. I think she just has to figure out how to capture that sentiment a little bit.
Maybe the reason people do like to see a match, but at the same time, back in 2009 when Federer, this is somewhat different, but Federer was playing Soderling in the French final. It was going to be his first French Open. And no one in the stands wanted to see a match. They just wanted to see Federer win in straight sets, easy match, because they were just behind that guy, and he had suffered so long at the hands of Rafa. Clearly a different situation now, but I think with Venus, they'd be happy to see her get through. She hasn't won there in 9 years. 2001 was her last.
Well, Schiavone certainly has the talent. I guess that's the last thing I'll say. Having seen her in person a couple times at Indian Wells, she has a monster one-handed backhand.
Yeah, she's got a great one-hander.
She has some weapons. So.
I'm looking. Somebody asked if she had played anybody. I haven't followed her draw super close. Bondarenko can play. She beat her 1 in 5, and then her next round was easy. So, and then I could dig back, but whatever. So that'll be interesting. Sam Stosur, Kim Clijsters. Look for, if we go over to the dry erase board, Stosur has one of the best serves on the women's tour. And particularly her kick serve is great, which she uses often on the second serve. When Serena played Stosur at the French, they did kind of a diagram. The first serve contact height was probably around waist high, versus second serve was a couple feet higher, shoulder high. So not only does she vary the pace well, but she also varies your contact height. And with the kick serve, she can pull people off the court effectively. So that's a huge weapon for her. And if it's working, that's going to, she's going to need that against Clijsters, who is arguably, the best athlete in the women's game. So if we have Stosur up here, she's going to want to serve big, but she's, I think she needs to look to run around a lot of backhands and just generally be playing out of her backhand corner, controlling the point on the forehand side and keeping Clijsters on the move. Because Clijsters, again, she's going to be able to track a lot of balls down, so Stosur is going to have to come up with multiple shot sequences to win this match. And what I would presume Stosur will do, not 100% sure, is a lot of inside-out forehands to get Clijsters off the court, induce a short ball that then comes to the open court. So that's my guess. I think we'll, like I said, hammer away at the backhand side, wait for with the inside out, wait for the short ball, and then go to the open court or try and wrong foot Clijsters. If I had to pick, I'd say, and the other thing actually I would say, I have a computer screen over here, so I'm looking at the draw. The other thing I would say is Clijsters she's destroyed some of her opponents, but she's also been a little bit inconsistent in terms of her play. She's gotten down a couple breaks, then come back and won easily. So she's kind of righted the ship over the course of a match. Against a more quality opponent like Stosur, that is going to get her into some trouble, potentially. But then she's also stopped kind of donating like she had earlier in the tournament. So she's rounding herself into shape. I think it's going to be a tough ask for Stosur. I think Clijsters wins this, but if it went 3, it wouldn't surprise me. Final match we have tonight is Nadal versus Lopez, 2 lefties. So the dynamic will be probably a little bit different than some of most of Rafa's matches where he plays righties and he really just tries to attack someone's backhand. But I actually, funny thing is, Lopez's backhand is easily his weakest shot. Great serve, great forehand, liability, one-hander. So, Rafa probably going to try and attack that. Actually, if you clip back to the dry erase board real quick, I'm not going to walk over there, but I just talked about how Stosur is going to hammer away at the backhand of Clijsters. Well, Rafa should do the same thing as well. 2 lefties, he can go inside out with the forehand and start hammering away at the backhand. Wait for a really attackable ball and then end the point. So that would be my guess tactically what Rafa does there. So with that in mind, guys, we have just passed 5:30 on the webcast. So
if you guys aren't watching this query match, you need to do it right now.
Yeah.
I interjected there with a wow. It
Oh,
was over
really?
on the whiteboard. Sam Query just hit one of the most epic passing shots to save break point that I think I've ever witnessed. It was amazing. So looks like Wawrinka is taking a bathroom break or he's coming right back out.
So ESPN2 it's on, or ESPN3.com is where you can watch it in the U.S. But this is a heck of a match. We're past the past 5. So check out FYB Premium if you're interested, because obviously biased. It's a great service, and we're gonna watch this Wawrinka Query match, which is 3-all in the 5th. Looks really interesting. Wawrinka is serving, so we're gonna get to that. But we will see you guys tomorrow, which is Wednesday, at 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So 23.5-hour break, as they say on Around the Horn, and we will see. Wow, that's not English. Let me try that again.
You were so close to closing it out there.
We will see you guys soon.
All right, bye guys.
Later.